Thank you, Lital.
Hi, thank
So I'm
you.
I'm I'm going to go ahead and give you the floor so you can introduce yourself to our audience and tell them a little bit about you, and then let's get this show on the road.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for inviting me to share my story and my company's story, Purpose Bio. Um, I'm very excited to be here. So let's go. I was asked to come on and tell you a little bit about how I got to building Purpose Bio, which is a bit of a unique story. It's not the usual one I think you hear every day because I do not have any scientific background, not in my undergrad and definitely not in my grad school, and definitely not in my elementary through high school years. So if you ask yourself, are you able to develop a drug or start a company that does drug development without a scientific background? My answer is absolutely yes. Is it easy? No, it's not. But if you have the right people with you, it's definitely doable. So let's start. I'll start by introducing myself real quick, just to give you a taste of who I am and where I come from. My name is Lital. I am a daughter of immigrants and an immigrant myself. So my parents left Iran in their mid 30s and moved to Israel with 3 kids. I was born in Israel, raised in Israel. And in my mid 30s, I moved to the US with 2 kids. And so I know a lot about how it is to be an immigrant in a brand new country with a brand new culture. I did my high school and early education in Israel. I can share that I was one of the worst students. I had horrible grades. The only good grade I had was in literature, and it's because I liked it. I had ADHD, and it was very hard, I have to say. It was hard because I felt like teachers didn't really get me. They didn't understand me, and I felt that they looked at me as someone who doesn't have a lot of potential. But inside myself, I knew that I do, and I'm a hard worker. And my parents believed in me and pushed me. And so when I was 18 years old, I knew that I wanted to go to college and have a higher education. My grades were not very good back then. So I decided to go and have a diagnosis to see what kind of learning difference do I have. And I was diagnosed with some learning differences, ADHD and dyscalculia. And that was a turning point for me. I knew that nothing's wrong with me. I just need to learn in a different way. And so a bit fast forward, I was able to improve my grades. And I did my undergrad is in law. I have a law degree and I have an MBA, a Master's in Business Administration. I started my career even before going to college as a waitress and then a restaurant manager. And then at some point when I was in my first year of law school, I always wanted to be a judge. This was my dream. I wanted to be a judge. I watched some TV shows. It was called LA Law back then. I don't know if you guys know it, but I really wanted to be a judge and a litigator in the courtroom. And so when I did my law degree in my first year, my brother introduced me to his friend who had a law firm, a small, tiny boutique law firm. And I was able to go and do a short summer internship as a first year law student. I was really excited about it. I thought, oh my God, I'm going to taste the real life and day to day of how it is live in my career. And lo and behold, I found myself really, really not loving what I saw and how I felt in the courtroom, in the law office, and in that environment. There was a lot of um, lawsuits and people not being very happy, and the energy was kind of tense. And I said to myself, that's not what I want to do for the rest of my life. I don't want to be in an environment of fighting and stress. And I said to myself, I'm going to finish my law degree, but I need to find something else for the rest of my life, for my career. And so as I did my law degree, I was able to get my first job as not even an intern, but just a temporary employee at Cisco Systems. It's a huge tech company that does networking technology. Back then, it was like the Facebook of those days. And a friend of my mom's was working there, and she kind of helped me get in as like a 2-month helper. I didn't know what a router was. I didn't know barely what the internet was. Not to mention what is networking and IP and TCP/IP. But I learned, and I fell in love. I fell in love with technology. I fell in love with the environment, with the innovation. I loved the offices, which were very techy and big. It was a large company. There was traveling abroad. And I just found myself saying to myself, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I want to be here. I want to be in this bubble of technology. Um, I started as a marketing communication helper, and I realized that I know how to sell. I was asked to create this event and sell sponsorships. And when I sold the sponsorships, I sold a lot of them and very quickly. And the CEO of the local branch of Cisco Systems was, wow, you're doing great. Good for you. And I really loved and enjoyed the interaction with the people, talking to other businesses, creating something bigger. And I saw next to me all the sales managers who were presenting their quotas and their targets every week in front of the whole team and going outside and meeting customers. And I just felt there was some sort of magic in that kind of work, and I wanted to do it. So in one day in the kitchen of the office, the CEO of the local branch was grabbing some coffee, and I was there. And I told him, Gary, his name was Gary, I want to be a salesperson. I want to be a sales manager. I want to be promoted, and I think I could do this. And he looked at me shocked, and he said, that's very interesting. Okay, let's talk. Let's see how we can do this. Cut a long story short, I became a salesperson. They sent me to Amsterdam to do a few weeks course of networking and sales and time management and customer management. Really, I feel like it was the real MBA of my life. I was still a law student. I think it was my second year in law school. Fell completely in love with technology, the travel. It was very shiny, as you can imagine. And I felt that I found what I need to do. I need to work with people, I need to travel, I need to sell, I need to learn and talk about technology. And that's what I wanted to do, and I felt wonderful about it. And the 2000-ish, there was a bubble burst of all the tech world. There was major layoffs. I was laid off alongside with 20 or 30 people in the office. It was really, really devastating. It was the first time I was laid off. I never felt like this before. I felt like it was the end of the world. But I decided that this is a great window of opportunity to go and do my MBA, my Master's in Business Administration. I did a full-time MBA in University of London. Was one of the toughest years of my life because I was a very young person in my early 20s, leaving my family in Israel and going to live by myself in London, finding my own apartment. And while it was a very difficult and challenging year, it was the best year because I really learned how to become an adult, how to buy my groceries, how to cook, and it was really, really wonderful. I came back to Israel after a year, and I joined a company that sold a platform, an online platform that sells derivative and stock pricing to traders, trading floors, and the largest banks of the Nordics, Scandinavia. And I traveled a lot, I sold a lot. It was absolutely amazing. After that company, I didn't know anything about derivatives, by the way, never traded a stock in my life, not to mention how to price a stock, but they gave us a 1-month course to everyone they onboarded, and they really taught us a lot about derivative pricing. And so a lot of learning, again, from scratch, something that I never knew what it was. Then I went and joined my next company, which was another startup that did cyber anti-fraud solutions to large financial institutions in Europe. Again, never worked on cyber. Learned everything from scratch, traveled a lot, met a lot of the largest banks in Europe, and had a wonderful ride. This company was sold to a public company, which was after a year again sold to another public company. Today it's Dell, if you have heard of it. And I went through these 2 exits, and it was just an amazing learning experience. After that, I joined another public company that did communication software as a service. Again, I ran the Europe and Middle East regions, hired a team, managed a team for the first time. And this promotion really didn't come because someone said, "Hey, Lital, come, we want to promote you." No, I had to go and ask and advocate for myself. And really every time I got to the next level, it's because I asked, it's because I tried, it's because I reached out and raised my hand and said, "Hey, I'm here, look at me, I can do this and I want to do this." Eventually, I moved to New York with my family. I joined another public company, and I ran their global strategic accounts across the world, largest companies, AT&T, American Express, a lot of sales. All in all, in my career, I think I sold about $1 billion in software and technology. And in 2016, I turned 40. And the last company I was at was a startup that is a public company today. But the DNA of the company, the culture, wasn't exactly what made me feel great, me nor other people around me. And I found myself not happy, not enjoying myself as I did previously in other companies. Even though you work really hard, if you're next to the right people, you really enjoy this. But in that last company I worked for, it wasn't the case. And I found myself really in a crisis. You can call it midlife crisis. I turned 40. I was unhappy in the company that I was working for. I had a really good friend that had a life-shattering accident. He fell off of a hang glider, and he's not himself until today. And I said to myself, what am I doing? I've been selling for about 20 years. I loved it so far, but I can't do this anymore. Life is going to end someday. And if I'm not happy, my kids are not happy. I had 3 kids at the time. And I didn't feel I am the best person I can be for myself, for my friends, for my husband, for my kids. And I felt there was no challenge. I've been doing this for 20 years, very big deals, multi-million-dollar deals, but a deal is a deal. And I said to myself, why am I gonna just keep going until I retire and just sell a deal and another deal and another deal? I honestly felt lost, and I didn't know what is going to become of me, because I really felt that I can't do this anymore. And so thankfully, my husband was extremely supportive, and my best friend saw me one day after I came back from the office, and he said, you just have to quit, and we will figure it out. You need to take a break, but you can't be miserable. You can't stay in a place that makes you miserable. And so I quit. It was very, very scary because I had nothing else. And I felt like I can't do anything else again because it's going to be the same of the same. And so I took a couple of years of a break. And for the first time, I really spent time exercising, and I spent time with my kids. Something I really never was able to do quite properly with such a demanding career. And I said to my husband back then, you know what? I don't think I'm ever going to work again. I just can't do this anymore. I just want to not do this anymore. And he said to me, you just need a little break. There's no way you can't work. You'll see. And he was right. After about a year, it started itching, and I said to myself, I want to do something. I want to build something. And this notion of, looking backwards and seeing $1 billion of sales and all the partnership and biz dev and sales and people I worked with who were remarkable. A lot of them were remarkable. I learned a lot, and I felt that not only did I acquire skills in this 20 years of career, but I felt inside that I also have a gift. And every time I went into a company, I somehow found myself building a new portfolio of customers, building a new market for that company, penetrating a new region. And I was able to really do things that are hard to do. I was able to move mountains that others have had a lot of challenges moving. And I said to myself, I need to, leverage the rest of my life. I was 40-ish. I want to leverage the rest of my life doing something with a purpose, something good, something huge. I want to make a difference. I want to leave this world looking back and saying to myself, I made an impact in the most positive way possible to make people happier and healthier and have a better life. I know it sounds corny, but I really felt like this. I felt like I needed to continue my life doing something with a purpose. And so I decided that I am going to do an entrepreneurship in residence at Stanford Research Institute. Someone introduced me to this nonprofit. Stanford Research Institute in the Bay Area is a nonprofit organization that does research. Siri on your iPhones was invented at SRI, and then an entrepreneur like me came, licensed this technology, created a company, and sold it to Apple. And so I said to myself, I'm going to build my own company. I'll build my own company, and I will choose the people I work with. I had three goals. I'm going to build my own companies. I will choose the people I work with, so there's going to be no asshole policy in my company. I'm going to solve a huge problem and it's going to be for the benefit of humanity. I didn't know what that idea was at the time, but thankfully, SRI also pushes its entrepreneurs to start with a lot of research and reading, and they ask you to, after you do some reading, come in and present a business model, a business pitch for a huge problem that you have identified, and how do you think you can fix it? I read a lot, and they asked me, do you want us to give you some software with AI? Because I had a lot of AI in my career in SaaS. And I said, no more AI and no more software, please. Give me something in human health. And so I think the guy back then said to himself, I don't think she knows what she's talking about. She's a SaaS girl. Lital, why don't you read about this bioinformatics team? And so I started reading, and I read about this phenomenal guy, the head of bioinformatics, who is a very good friend of mine today. And there were a lot of words that I didn't understand. Molecular biology, I didn't know what that is. Microbiome, I didn't know what that is. So I went to Google and I said, what is microbiome? And I started learning about this fascinating tens of thousands of gut bacteria that we have in us and on us and their role. And I really fell in love with science, and I found it in my early 40s. I didn't know what DNA was. I didn't know what RNA was. So there was a lot of funny searches in Google. What is RNA? And what is the difference between DNA and RNA? And what is molecular biology? And give me examples. And so I read and I read and I read. And I found by coincidence, part of my rabbit hole reading, I found a Nature publication by who is today my co-founder, Elaine Shao, a professor at UCLA. And this publication discussed her discovery about this fascinating gut bacteria that has a role in the host of really promoting the creation and production of serotonin in the gut. So I had no idea we had serotonin in the gut. In fact, we have 95% of our serotonin in the gut. Only 5% is not in our gut and is in our central nervous system. And I was really shocked because I knew what serotonin was. I knew what antidepressant was. I knew that, people are really having issues with their moods and depression, and it really hinders the way they live. And I said, okay, let's try to create a probiotic from this bug to treat depression and give an alternative to the drug world for a natural antidepressant. So that was my first idea. It's definitely not what Purpose Bio does today, but I reached out to the technology development group at UCLA. Every university you might know has a technology transfer group that they license out their inventions and intellectual property to entrepreneurs who want to take it to market and make companies out of these innovations. And so I reached out to the head of the tech transfer group. His name is Amir Nyberg, and I pitched him my idea. And he liked my idea, and he introduced me to Elaine. And I remember meeting Elaine for the first time. And I was so apologetic because here I am, I'm sitting in front of this rock star scientist. And I don't even know what molecular biology is, and I want to create a company out of her technology. And so I was like, I'm so sorry, I'm not a scientist, but I do have a business background, and I love what I read. I fell in love with your publication, and I'm really interested, and I'd love for us to work together. And I think she took a bet on me. Today, she's my scientific co-founder, which is just unbelievable. But I knew that if I wanted to create this company, I knew that I wanted to have it scientific based and data driven, and not just a probiotic company, which we are not today, by the way, at all. We are a drug discovery company, but there was a big pivot along the way. I knew that I needed the very best to be next to me. And because I was not a scientist, I knew that I needed not just scientists next to me, but the best scientists next to me, so that we can create this puzzle and build this company from scratch with the best, most solid building blocks of science and data and rigor, so that not only will we be successful, but that our solution, our product, whatever it was back then, today it's an FDA approved drug, hopefully in the future, will be real, will be effective and safe, and will actually help people. And so this is our team today. It's not even all of them, but this is the core team today. And the first thing I did when I was at SRI, someone heard I was from Israel, and he said, "Oh, that's interesting. You know, my guru in biology is Professor Eran Elinav. I absolutely admire him. He's a key opinion leader in the field." And I said to myself, "Oh, he's Israeli. I'm gonna reach out and ask him to join me." And I did. I found someone who was connected to him on LinkedIn. I reached out. I asked them to make an introduction to Professor Elinav for me. He laughed at me and said he will never respond to the email. And I said, "Okay, but let's try anyways." And of course, he responded. And he's my partner today and the head of the scientific advisory board. And really, he is the north of our science. We have Professor Elaine on the advisory as well. Our company took a real pivotal turn about 2.5 years ago, where we, with research and learning and reading and talking to people and getting advice and learning about the probiotic markets and what they require in order to be successful in it versus the FDA approval drug market, and what does it take to get an FDA approval drug? How long does it take? What do you need? Much more than probiotics, let me tell you. We decided together that we are going to develop an FDA approved drug. We decided we do not want to play in the probiotic market. We actually want to create a real medicine out of a group of enzymes that we have identified in Professor Shao's lab. And we are now engineering these enzymes to treat massive indications such as obesity, fatty liver disease, hyperlipidemia, and anything under the metabolic syndrome diseases. So we have Dr. Dong, who is our Chief Medical Officer. Dr. Dong is an MD, PhD that treats patients of obesity and fatty liver disease in the clinic, and also runs a scientific lab at UCLA that is very, very relevant to our technology and our platform in drug development. And the way I reached Dr. Dong is because Professor Shao introduced me to him. Of course, we have Professor Elinav. He's the north of our science. At some point, I met Dr. Raffaeli, who is a scientist and a drug developer. He has 350 granted patents in life science and have invented drugs, cancer drugs that are in advanced and successful phases in late-stage clinical trials. We have Dr. Weinstein, a lipid metabolism PhD, and a bioinformatician. We have Dr. Holmes, who's a molecular biologist engineer, who runs all of our R&D. And really interesting, I want to share with you is Aida and Jeanette, who just joined us recently as our scientist one, in-house lab scientist. We're opening a lab at Magnify UCLA this week. So it's a very exciting week for us. And so we published an open role to hire a scientist for our lab a few weeks ago. And within 10 hours, we received over 60 super relevant and impressive resumes applying to this job. It was really wonderful to see, but also a bit overwhelming. We've shortlisted a few of them. We met them. We were almost sure about a couple of hires. And then at the very last minute, Aida emails me, "Hi, I applied to the job. I never heard back. Can we please have a call?" And that first email, I was really busy and I didn't reply, although I really make a point to reply anyone emailing me, but sometimes it's super crazy. I was very busy at that week and I didn't reply. After a week, she emailed me again. "Hi, I'm still very interested and I really hope we can have a call." And I was like, okay, let's have a call. We had a call and I was like, wow, she's wonderful. She has this hunger in her that I didn't see in other candidates and I was looking for. It's not just about the experience, but it's also about the personality. And in order to, work and join a startup like this, you have to be an entrepreneur yourself. And I saw that in Aida. And then someone that I know from Women in Bio emailed me or she messaged me on LinkedIn and she said, I met this lovely girl. Her name is Jeanette. Just finished her PhD and looking for a job. I'm wondering if you can meet her. And I said, we're almost done with the recruitment. We're pretty much hiring someone. And she said, if you could just meet her for an introduction. And I said, sure, I'd love to. We made for an introduction, and I was like, wow, she could be a wonderful complementing scientist, maybe in the beginning as a part-timer, but eventually, maybe join as an actual employee. And so I want you to take from this is our team, our new team members have was hired as really they didn't give up. They just kept going and emailing me and trying. And you can see there's a vast skill set in STEM over here, molecular biology, bioinformatics, medical doctors, a microbiologist, biochemists, protein engineer, enzyme engineers. There's so much that we are using in building our company, in creating this novel new drug that will treat potentially 1 billion people all over the world. And I always knew I cannot do it by myself. It's not just that I need a real scientific team by my side, but the best one. And it's not just the expertise, it's also the characteristic of the person. With grit and perseverance and hard work, you can get far. And so today, just a humble brag, we are named as UCLA's top life science startups, one of 4 that they announced a couple of weeks ago in San Francisco, which is a huge honor and a bit surreal, I have to say. We are in touch with all of the large pharma companies, Merck, Amgen, Eli Lilly, Novo Nordisk. They are all interested in what we do and follow our R&D to see if at some point we can collaborate with them, and I'm hoping we will. We're getting a lot of attention and acknowledgement from objective bodies such the Department of Defense, the NSF, the NIH, and other alliances of biotechnology innovation in the US. We're hoping to get funded and get a first grant of award by the NIH sometime soon. And so really when you have the building blocks of the best and the right team, innovative technology, intellectual property, and a big need in the markets, it's a puzzle, and you can bring everything and everyone together. And it's really about creating your own puzzle. It's what kind of color will you give it? Where will you take it? What do you want to develop? But it's a puzzle of people and skills and market need and intellectual property and technology. But it's a lot about the people and their grit and motivation. I want to share with you, I know that I've been asked to share what kind of STEM skills does Purpose Bio use? So many, microbiology, protein engineering, enzyme engineering, biochemists, I learned are real superstars. Bioinformatics, we do in vivo research. We'll need somebody to run this in vivo research. Synthetic biology tools, control measures, assay development, medical doctors. We have 2 MD PhDs on the team, super relevant, clinical trials. There's a whole career you can have around managing clinical trials, designing clinical trials, as well as preclinical trials, lab management, manufacturing. There's so much you can do and find yourself in an early and late stage biotech company. But there's also a lot of non-STEM skills, a ton. It starts with people skills, how do you approach people? Do you make them want to work with you and give you a chance and make a bet on you? It's a lot about sales. And I would argue that sales is an intrinsic part of every life skill and career that you have, to articulate what you do and be convincing and want people to listen to you and then take you on your advice and what you're trying to do. It's huge. It's everywhere, and definitely in biotech as well, in many different flavors. There's a lot of legal support that a life science company has. It starts with the formation of the company, of the corporate, hiring people, forming the company, filing the formation of the company, the equity of the company and the bylaws of the company. And then there's intellectual property, which there I would say it's usually domain expertise, intellectual property. And all of the lawyers that we've been working with, they do have a scientific background, because you really need to know what type of science you apply to. And then there's licensing. We have an exclusive license from UCLA that allows us to exclusively use some of the technology and the innovation coming out of Elaine's lab. Of course, we continue to develop, and we have our own patents as well, not just the exclusive license out of UCLA. But there's a lot of work to be done around licensing and negotiating a license agreement with all the terms, looking fast forward to 10 years from now, and working with the technology transfers of universities or of companies when you try to obtain an exclusive license with good terms. Finance, so much to do in finance, maybe not in the very, very early stages of a company, but when you start raising money and paying salaries and making expenses, and even when you get grants from the NIH or from the NSF, there's a lot of financial rigor that you need to have on your team. Partnerships, how do you reach out to the giants? How do you create a partnership? How do you negotiate a partnership? How do you build a partnership? What kind of goals do you want from the partnership? And of course, human resources, not in a very early stage company, but later on, when there's more people and more human capital, which is the most important capital of the company, I argue it's always about the people than even human resources at some point. So there's a lot to do with non-STEM skills. I have a law degree, I don't have a scientific background, and I use my law degree every day in my life, not only at Purpose Bio, but really every day in my life. And so I want to start wrapping it up and maybe give you some of my 2 cents of what I think. I look back and I attribute some of the my ability to move forward with my career, with my promotions, even in my personal life, in building a company, in reaching out to a tech transfer of a university like UCLA, in meeting Professor Shao without a scientific background. It's all about daring and asking. And if you don't try, you really might lose a yes. So I really urge you guys, whatever you want to do, and it doesn't have to be necessarily building a company, but if you want something, dare, just ask. If you don't ask, if you don't raise your hand, nobody knows you want something. And look inside you, and if there's something that even if you feel it's hard and challenging, you know, when I pivoted from a consumer product to an FDA approved drug, people looked at me as if I'm crazy, and maybe I am crazy, but I don't care. I believed that I had what it takes to make it happen. I believed I had the partners with me, and I can find the right people moving forward to make it happen. And I knew in me that yes, it's longer, it's harder, it's even sometimes excruciating, painful, but it's doable, and the reward at the end is really worth it. And so I took a lot of advice from a lot of people. And some of the advice was wonderful, and some of the advice was really not wonderful. And so my advice to you is take as much advice as you can, but then you choose the advice you actually put into action and make your plan a reality. A lot of times I'm being asked by younger people that are not even starting, haven't even started their careers, or still even thinking on what will they go to college for, what will they learn. They say, I don't know what I want to do. And when I was in law school, my first year, one of the best things that happened to me is that I tried, and I went into a law office for 2 months in a summer, and I felt it. I felt the day-to-day life. I saw it firsthand. What is it going to look like? So if you're not sure and you have a few options, reach out and ask. Reach out to people that you know and say, hey, do you know someone that works for this or this company or this type of company? I want to give it a shot. I want to become an intern, a helper, an assistant, a shadow. Either pay me minimum or don't even pay me. I just want to feel it. And this will give you a real first-hand look into what your day-to-day, what your life is going to be like before you choose that career path. And that's huge. And then decisions. Don't be afraid to take decisions. There is a strategy in business and even in AI. It's called the next best action. Wherever you are in your life, if you look ahead 10 years and you know where you want to be, always think to yourself, what is the now that I need to do? What is the next action, the best action now that I need to do in order to get there, to that point in time in 10 years from now? So when you're here, you have to go step by step. What's the next best step? Is it an internship? Is it education? Is it a degree? Is it moving from one company to another? And even taking a backward step in your career, but moving towards where you want to be, the industry you want to be in. And so don't be afraid to take decisions, but don't be afraid to dare also. So ask and dare, and nobody will know what you want if you don't reach out and ask. Hey, I'm here. I'm interested. I want this. And so I want you to leave today and think about what is your most epic dream for your life, for your career, and for your personal life, not just for your career. And it doesn't have to be building a company, but what is it that you want for your life in the most profound way possible? Entrepreneurship is building for your idea to make it become a reality. And you can be an entrepreneur in creating your family, and you can be an entrepreneur as a individual contributor inside a big company, creating a new department or reaching a new set of customers. It's not just about building a company. I think we're entrepreneurs every day. We wake up, we get dressed, and we go about our day to make things happen and make ourselves better and progress our lives. And so just start building. It's all about building and daring and asking and trying. And I hope this is what you took from this talk today. I'm happy to answer any questions. And building blocks, sound building blocks. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that presentation, Lital. Quite a story, quite a journey.
Quite a journey.
Not to get all biblical here, it's almost like an Israelite journey from Egypt to the Promised Land.
Yes, I do feel
Wasn't
like
straight at all.
it was not straight at all. And
There's nothing straight about that.
it is not straight yet, still even.
Okay.
You know, all these wonderful milestones that we have and that we make every few days, there is a heart attack. There is, oh my God, something's not working. What do we do now? What's the next best action now to solve it? So, but you know, it's fascinating, and I am so happy I made this change. So happy. It changed my life and it changed everything for the better. It's not easy, but it's much better for me.
So we are going to open the floor out for questions now for Lital.
Okay.
Please use the Q&A box and let's give the lady some questions to answer.
Shoot.
Maybe I should start by asking the first question.
Okay, go for it.
I was listening to you say something about kind of reaching a crisis point.
Mm-hmm.
You've been doing a certain thing for many, many years in your career, and then finally got to a point where you could be part of it could be midlife crisis, but it could be other kind of crisis. But this crisis precipitated sort of this need to re-examine your life, almost like something existential. You know,
Yes.
what am I doing? What have I been doing? What do I need to do next? You know, one day just run into the next, 1 week run into the next, 1 month run into the next, 1 year run into the next. And would you say that it was perhaps part of it is also you wanted a complete change of direction? Like
100%.
because you could be doing the same thing and it could either scale or it could be doing it maybe by changing environment. But it doesn't sound like what you did was mere moving the chess pieces on the board. It seemed like it was breaking the board completely and playing a completely different game. Yes?
Yeah, very true. I couldn't do what I did anymore. And you're right. I could have, you know, continued and scaled it even further. But essentially it was all the same for me. You know, when of course, when you sell a SaaS deal to a company for $12,000 a year, this was the first ticket sale that I did, versus a $10 million sale, it's very, very different. But at the same time, it's the same. And so I did change the environment from one company to another. I changed the industry, the technology vertical, cyber and communication and networking and AI and fintech. But I just couldn't do this anymore. I knew I needed a clean slate, something that I didn't feel challenged. I felt like I could do this sleeping, walking backwards. And you could say maybe I was bored a little bit. And the combination of, seeing this friend of mine almost lose his life, just like that, how things are fragile and not being happy where I was. And maybe also even a little burnt out by all of the, traveling that I did for 20 years with no stopping. It was an algorithm that came together and catalyzed a need for huge shift and a change.
All right. I think we've got a few questions that just came in. Well, actually, a whole bunch have come in. I believe this is part of work culture and people's skills. I'm interested to know how to go through the work-life politics and overcome them. Colleagues trying to take credit for your work, seniors trying to take advantage.
What a great question.
Yeah.
What a great question, and so true. I had the privilege of working with some fantastic people. And remember, there's always politics when there's more than two people. I had the fortune of working with some amazing colleagues and managers and mentors, but I also had a bit of challenges with others that were finding it hard to see me succeed. Back then, I was usually the only woman in my type of position, especially in management, and that was hard. And when I was much, much younger, I took it much harder. Like when there was in my first couple of companies that I worked for, there were a few really toxic people that just could not bear the thought that the success goes to someone else and not to them. I took it so hard. It really ruined my life because I was like, why aren't they happy for me? And there was a lot of unfair situations. But as I matured and grew in my career and developed, and also in years, I have to say, I became a mom, which really gives you a different perspective on life. It's a real different perspective on anything. Of course, it's always there, and it is always unpleasant to be in such toxic environment. But as you move forward with your life and you grow and you become older, you also take it a little less to heart. But what I would suggest is if somebody finds themselves in an environment that is just too toxic, just leave. Don't stay there. Go find a better environment. There's so many companies. And you'll find, I think I found that whenever there was a toxic environment, it trickled down from the management. The DNA of the company is really trickling down by whoever is managing the company. And so interview you as well, the interviewer, about the culture and the dynamics and the politics. And if it's too much and you can afford making a change, don't be stuck. Make the change.
Thank you very much, Lital. Did you have people who just turned you down flat when you wanted to try something new? Were you always ready to pivot to someone, something else? What was your response to being completely turned down?
Definitely, I definitely had people turn me down. I have people turning me down today. You know, sometimes in a startup, you raise money, you go to investors, and even if they think it's an interesting approach, for their own reason, they turn you down and they say, not relevant for us, we're not ready yet, or whatever reason they say. And it's a flat turn down. You just move to the next window and try again from a different angle, from a different perspective, to a different person, to a different investor. And if somebody turns you down in your work environment where you say, hey, I'm interested in doing more, I want this promotion, I want to learn more. And if there's too much turning down and there's no one that is open to take your willingness to shine, it's not a good place for you.
All right. I haven't been in my field in science for a couple of years. How would you make yourself stand out to a career job?
Let me read this again. I haven't been in my field in science for a couple of years. So I don't know where you are and what kind of environment you are, but what I would suggest is if you're in a specific company, learn the goals of the company. What is the company trying to do? What is the bottom line of what your company is trying to do? And what are the challenges and the next best actions that this company needs to take in order to meet its goals? Hone on these challenges and next best actions and whatever needs to happen to help your company, your environment, your group, your team to shine and come up with, be proactive, come up with ideas, with solutions, with suggestions, read, learn, listen to podcasts that are relevant to the same issues, and email the decision makers, including your direct chain of management, and say, hey, I know this is what we're trying to do. I've been reading about it here and here and here. How about this approach? So be proactive. Be proactive in a way that does not step on anyone else's feet. And be proactive in a way that doesn't surprise anyone. So reach out to your direct manager and say, hey, I want to do this. I've been reading, I've been learning, and I have a thought. I'd like to reach out to the CEO and offer this thought. Just wanted to let you know, is that okay with you? And I'm sure they will say, yes, sure, great. Love the initiative. So initiate, be proactive, and help the company reach its goals without stepping on anyone's toes and without surprising anyone.
Thank you very much. With the one more question here, it says, I'm very passionate about my career in STEM as a researcher, but knowing that knowledge and learning never stops, I want to know how I can centralize my idea in research in a particular field, how likely the research idea can be successful.
Great question. So one of the things that Stanford Research Institute pushed me to do, and really it's whenever you start a business, is you try to look at what is needed in the world. In the drug development world, it's called an unmet need. What are unmet needs in the world? So whatever field you're at, try to do some market research. And it takes time. It doesn't happen quickly. You need to read a lot and learn a lot and ask questions. And if you find a field that is relevant to your research, if it's a product, a device, a service, a drug, a nutraceutical, whatever it is, maybe a platform, The chances of it becoming successful is if there's a demand for this idea that you have, this solution to a problem. So the bigger the problem is, the more need there is in the market. So if you have something unique, an edge, a competitive edge, or something completely innovative that no one else tried, that can really help and address the bigger the market, the better, and the least competition, the better. If you have the domain expertise and you hone into that area, you will find yourself in a bigger ocean to swim in and to find more opportunities. And it might not be a very narrow approach. It might be the approach next to it. But you have to know where you live around you and around the research that you're doing. What are the products that your topic of research relate to? What companies play in the world that relate to your research? Are there any? And if they are, what do they do? Who do they sell to? How big are they? Who is their competition? You need to know where you are in the world. And I suggest, pushing yourself to a field that you are excellent in and that you can bring value, and that there is a demand in the world for this solution or problem solving or anything that you can bring to the table. So that will increase the chances of success, the demand. I see another question. What is the biggest challenge in contemporary biotech, and what can the upcoming scientists do to address this challenge? There's a few challenges. There's quite a few. Ihide, you are on mute, by the way. There's quite a few challenges.
I was saying that's a big picture kind of question. I don't know how much Lita can answer that in a few minutes, but
I'll
should
try.
give it a stab.
Yeah, I'll try to dissect it to a few topics. The first one I think of is time to market. Science is slow, development is slow, and there's a lot of patience and scientific need for innovation in the world. But still, science and R&D in science is slow. It's not like high tech and technology software, which is much, much faster. Finding ways, and there are companies that are focusing on scaling production and improving accuracy in R&D. So finding ways to fast forward and speed up the way science can get to humanity in a day-to-day basis. It's a big answer, but it's huge. It's huge. Funding. It's really capital. Startups and early stage companies, the majority of the failures are not just scientific, but really financial and funding. And so when you're a scientist, if you can take some YouTube webinars and read about fundraising, what is it that investors want? What are they looking for? How do they de-risk their investment? How do they feel comfortable writing down that check? It'll increase your likelihood to really fund your idea. And when you fund your idea and your research, this is fuel. It's gasoline for your venture, your research. Without money, it's really nothing. So when I started my journey in biotech, I was always very apologetic on I'm not a scientist. And today I'm actually happy I'm not a scientist. Well, I wish I was a scientist, but knowing the business, bringing the business side of things and knowing how to raise money and how to talk to investors, it's key, it's crucial, not only for the success of the company, but even to the establishment and the inception of the company. And This is not something that scientists pay attention to, and I think it'll be amazing if they do, because it'll increase chances of bringing science to market. So these are just two things that I have in mind right now.
Somebody posted in the chat box instead of the Q&A box. I'm still just go ahead and say it though. He says, this person says, what is your perspective on the synthetic biology industry and the landscape in terms of startups like yours financing?
Financing. Okay, so synthetic biology is a hot topic. It's very sexy, and every few months/years there's a new sexy topic. Right now it's synthetic biology. And I see why, because I think synthetic biology is going to fuel so many things in the future, and not just drugs. It's going to fuel, it already does, but makeup and cosmetics and food and agriculture and climate change and fuels and biofuels. So there's a lot of money and attention going to synthetic biology. There are many categories in synthetic biology. There's the industry you play in. Is it pharma? Is it ag tech? Is it biofuels? Is it manufacturing? Being able to scale up manufacturing. That's another field. So there's a lot of attention and money and will to finance. Eric Schmidt, the former CEO of Google, started a newish fund just for synthetic biology called First Spark Ventures. That's all this fund does. It's a few $100 million. And so there's a lot of attention to it. It just depends on what bucket of synthetic biology you play in. Some of them are more platform tool-based, and some of them are more product-based. We are sort of a combination of a platform and a solution and a drug that we develop with our own platform. And so investors really like to see companies as early as possible come up with a platform technology that can help them create not just a product company, but a portfolio company of many products coming out of the same platform or same platforms. So another very big question.
Thank you. I think that's all the questions we have so far. We still have about, at least 14 to 15 people left on this call. I'm hoping we can get maybe a couple more questions. We certainly still have some time for a couple more questions. Well, while we're waiting for other people to contribute questions, I should ask one also. Where do you see the industry, 10 years from now, 15 years from now, the industry where your company plays right now? What are the major drivers? What do you think the landscape might look like in about 15 years?
You'll be shocked by my answer, but I'll say AI is, and I hope it will, really, really take all of these challenges that I shared, the time to market, the accuracy, the scaling, the manufacturing. I see AI really pushing things forward in ways that we can't even comprehend or think of now. So for example, every drug development company needs to start with preclinical trials with mouse models. There's already, just to show efficacy and safety in an in vivo model. I don't know if in 10 years from now we'll have mice, maybe, but maybe we'll also we already have organ on a chip approaches where you don't need a complete mouse system. But organ on a chip is a kind of narrow look into a mechanism of action, and every mechanism of action is very complex and connected to so many other things in the host. I hope that in 10 years from now, not only mouse models, but also human models in clinical trials can leverage AI in a way to really shorten the time to market, to get these drugs to patients as quickly as possible, but also increase the accuracy of the targeting mechanism of action and the safety, not just the efficacy, but figuring out what is more safe and more tolerable with AI. There's going to be so much data lakes to pull data from, and AI came to a point of sophistication that I think will, just get more and more sophisticated. And I'm actually very hopeful for it. I think I'm very hopeful for healthcare, not only by seeing all the innovation with startups that I can meet, that I meet in my work, but I think AI is going to give it a crazy boost and a lot of good things. I know there's a lot of, risks and concerns with it, but a lot of good things can also happen.
All right. Sounds very good. Artificial intelligence is reshaping the world already in every aspect, every arena. Nothing, no one is exempted. Every profession.
I love this new question here. What is the idea of success for you? How and when do you feel you have done enough on your part and feel satisfied about your work?
Great question.
It's a great question. So I look at success in a very different way today than I did 20 years ago. 20 years ago, my success translated in titles and salaries and having big teams and being promoted and getting acknowledged by my superiors and building myself a comfortable life where I can have, the best healthcare and a great lifestyle. Today, I have 4 kids, and I look at things much differently. Today's success to me is being healthy alongside the people you love that make you feel good, having friends that make you feel wonderful about yourself and you make them feel wonderful about themselves and nothing less, and working on anything, solving any kind of problem. For me, I don't know. I mean, this is a scientific journey. We're yet to be seen. We're still in development. Of course, we're very optimistic, but it is science and you really don't know what will happen. At the same time, knowing that I am working on a field that can potentially help build a billion people at least, I'm already happy. I'm doing what I want. I create every day. Every day I create. And it's really not about the salary anymore. It's definitely not about the title anymore. It's just about surrounding myself with the people that I love and make me feel good and can help me achieve what I want to build. And so it's very different. And it's okay, I think, when you're younger to have success driven by salary and titles and promotion. It's fine. But eventually, it's kind of a consensus among us in our 40s. It's really about what is important in life and how can you be a happy, calm person that is able to work on what they enjoy every day.
Thank you very much. We have one more question that says, can you give an anecdotal experience on how a specific research project can influence team dynamics? Wow, that's quite an interesting question.
Yeah, that's a great question. So yes, I have a few thoughts. So when we started engineering our enzymes, we had our first engineering campaign, and it didn't work. The first engineering campaign failed. We had some issues with the information. And I was devastated. I thought, oh my God, this is just, what am I, it's horrible. It was the most horrible thing. I was so excited. We started engineering, but we had to start everything from scratch. And my team, my colleagues have kept telling me, it's okay. It's science. It happens. It's devastating. It's annoying. It's hard, but we learned from this, and now we regroup and we're gonna start again. And we just have to do it. We don't give up now. And it happens all the time in science. I didn't know that because I never, engineered an enzyme before. And that was huge for me. But imagine what would have happened if some of the team members would start to accuse each other and give up and say, wow, done. This didn't work. We have to stop here. We're wasting our time. We're wasting other people's time. It could have stopped there, and none of the wonderful, amazing achievements and milestones that we've hit so far would have happened if we stopped. So it's huge to have a positive environment. It's huge, not only for your mental well-being as a human, but also for the success of your project. You don't want any downers around you. I attribute a lot of our success to my amazing colleagues who have really supported in a very difficult time and said, we just keep going. It's okay. It happens. We just keep going. So I hope that addresses the question. Positive energy around you. Friends, family, work, colleagues. So important.
What is that one piece of advice you would have given to your younger self?
Not be so hard on myself.
Okay.
Not be so hard on myself. And it's easy to say, but it wasn't easy when I was a kid. It was a lot of challenging moments and a lot of fear and concern. And I wish I could look back to my young self and say, it's all going to be okay. You just have to take control of your own life.
It's all going to work out.
And it's going to work out. I wish I could also tell myself, that group of friends that are not super nice, ditch them. Next, find the better ones that will lift you and you lift them.
Sounds good. What is your advice for someone who is applying to their first job after graduating for those with imposter syndrome?
We all have imposter syndrome.
Every one of us does.
I'm sitting here talking to you guys and I'm like, wow, really? I give advice to this amazing group of students. We all have imposter syndrome. Embrace the imposter syndrome. Say, yeah, it's a syndrome. That's what it is. Put your fingers on it. It's an imposter syndrome. I'm not an imposter. I want to do this and I can. I'm going to learn and I'm going to bring my A game. I'm going to work hard and it's going to happen. You're not an imposter.
Good advice. Good advice. And I should say that it's like almost like a chronic condition. Doesn't mean that it will totally go away. it will flare up again and again, especially when you have a win. You know, you're going to continue to question yourself sometimes.
Yeah.
If you don't question yourself, people around you might question you.
Yeah.
So either way, you have to deal with this. You have to live with this.
Yeah.
Um,
I live with this every day. Remember, I was the worst student in high school, and my dream was to go to UCLA. I had family here, and I really wanted to go to UCLA, and I didn't even apply because I said to myself, they're going to laugh at my application even if I try. And today, we're starting a lab at UCLA. They are my partners. They are super supportive.
you are part of UCLA now, not as a
I am part of
student,
UCLA.
but you know, you're integrated into the UCLA ecosystem.
I am. And every time I walk into campus, I'm like, wow, unbelievable. So I think the imposter syndrome goes with you. It becomes smaller and smaller. And at some point you figure, no, I did it. It's happening. I deserve it. I worked hard.
Very, very interesting. I think maybe this may be our last question. It says, no matter how hard I work, I feel like I'm not enough and I do not know anything compared to my colleagues. Is it common for people to have this kind of thinking? Did you ever feel like you're not enough at work? I think that's just another way of asking the imposter syndrome.
You're not alone. Everybody feels the same, especially in a competitive environment where you want to shine. Whether it's in school with grades or in work with achievements, you're definitely not alone. Everybody has the same feeling. And I would argue if someone never has that feeling, they're a narcissist.
Yes.
You always question yourself. I run on paranoia. I always in the back of my mind, oh my God, what if it's not good enough? What if it's not good enough? What if it's not good enough? And this string of paranoia of what if it's not good enough brings me and pushes me forward. You're not alone. Everybody feels this way. If they don't feel this way, something's wrong with them. And, you know, just look around you. Where are you? Learn the environment and try to bring value to where you are so that the group will be successful.
All right. I guess unless we have any other question, we seem to have tackled all the 9 questions that came in.
Right.
Oh, and by the way, speaking of paranoia, just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they're not after you.
Exactly. Very true.
So it's a feeling everybody needs to deal with.
Very true.
And according to Nirvana, it's part of the human condition, I think.
Very normal.
It's part
Very,
of the
very
human
normal.
condition.
And it's a fuel for growth.
Yes.
It's a fuel to do and to improve and to grow.
And if you start feeling like you have nothing left to learn, everything is now perfect, you may actually have a problem.
Yeah, exactly. You'll be really bored.
All right. Well, thank you all very much for sticking with us to the end. I want to thank Lital Gilad for honoring our invitation today. Thank you very much for your very unusual, convoluted story, not linear at all. And we are very grateful for your time. And we wish you all the best with Purpose Bio. And we will be looking forward to hearing good things as you continue to build this company. Thank you very much.
And all the best to all the students there. Thank you. Thank you for
Thank you,
inviting
everyone.
me. Bye-bye.
Have a good rest of the week. Bye-bye.